Welcome back. You are watching KTN News Desk. Many thanks for staying with us. We remain with our top story of the hour, where the High Court has decided that, has upheld the decision by the High Court that presidential results announced at the constituency level are final, and adding that this is inconceivable to view these results as provisional or temporary. And we're still getting reactions from that ruling by the Court of Appeal, the 5-judge bench that has just delivered its ruling upholding the decision by the High Court. Lawyer Kibe Mungai once again with us in studio. Thank you for joining us. So from the reactions we got, Patrick Amimo, our senior reporter, was speaking to a number of the lawyers, and Maina Kiai as well there. And they have been saying since 1992 we have been having messy elections because of this. Would this ruling cushion that?
I agree that if from 1992, one can be able to argue that we've had problems with the elections. But at the end of the day, the Krieger report was very clear on this. Any alterations of these results was actually not traceable to the National Tallying Center. It was always at the level of the returning officer. So that even when you said that in some constituencies that there was a discrepancy between the votes that was initially announced by the returning officer, even publicly, but you'd actually find that in the results that, for example, would be taken to KICC or to Bomas of Kenya, it is the same returning officer who would actually have changed that form to make a certain announcement of it. So that the argument that, that there are changes, in my view, and I'm speaking from experience as a lawyer who does these election petitions, it is always at the returning officer that any alterations would be made. I am not aware of any single instance, even in the last petitions by Honorable Raila Odinga, I did not see accusations that anything changed at Bomas. The accusations would be that there was a discrepancy between what appeared to have been announced first by the returning officer and the form, the same form, when it arrived in Nairobi. But you see, it would still bear the signature of the returning officer. But I think what this means to me is that there would be a great challenge by all political parties to invest far much more in what would be happening at all these polling stations countrywide. Because let us remember that in many of these, elections are always local. And the local officers who will be supervising these elections, I don't agree with the judges to tell them that they are quite employees of IEBC. Because these are people, I saw recently invitations for people to apply for these positions. These are temporary employees. They'll be employed for between 14 days to 20 days. If you have such a person working for you, you call them watu wa vibarua. So to say that these are people wholly committed to IEBC and IEBC alone, I'm hesitant to say that.
But the court has said that it's the IEBC's job to ensure that these people, they hire people of integrity.
Is it possible to do that? I don't think it is possible. It's one thing that you would try to do that. But again, let's say you've gone to the middle of Murang'a. Are you likely to get any number of returning officers that 100% or 90% are not ordinary supporters of Uhuru Kenyatta? I think that's where the challenge is. So that now, how do you now ensure that these ordinary supporters of Uhuru Kenyatta will not be in conspiracy with the bulk of the agents to fiddle with the figures and anything else? Okay? Because after you leave the polling stations, remember, the role also of the constituency returning officer, because of logistical challenges of 6 elections, would also be minimal. And therefore, by and large, what leaves the polling stations, you are likely to have very minimal verifications and very minimal interventions by the constituency returning officer.
In the event we go to this election with this ruling as is, that is if the IEBC will not decide to appeal and there won't be any change in the ruling, what do we expect to see at the Bomas of Kenya, which is the National Tallying Center, once the vote counting and tallying begins? What will we see that we have not seen in the previous election years?
Of course, it'll be what we have changed is the high stakes, the stage. We have changed the stage. The big stage will no longer be
the National
Tallying Center. The big stage is likely to be in those constituency tallying centers. And therefore, in my view, what I expect is that if a result that appears to be contentious, let's say in Kisumu or somewhere in Mombasa, you are likely to have considerably more contestation at that returning the centers, the constituency offices, tallying centers, more than now they will be here. Because now everybody will know that whatever comes from Mombasa will be final for all practical purposes. So that I expect Bomas of Kenya will be very calm, because at the end of the day, the moment it is transmitted, you will know that it will just be final, except you change it with it.
So it takes all the attention from Bomas.
The attentions will come away from Bomas to those places. But again, those places, what I wonder is how you will manage the inevitable tensions. For example, let's assume that you are somewhere in the middle of Elgeyo Marakwet, and there is a serious contestation about whatever vote is being read. Okay? Now, the problem there now would be that one side of the local people would be supporting candidate A. And probably the people who would be saying that there is a problem with whatever probably is being genuinely announced as wrong would be a minority. So you can imagine now for the security forces and for anybody else to try to manage any conflict about whatever vote is being announced at the constituency level is likely to be considerable. And therefore, just the same way we saw in the primaries, there would be devolutions of attention from Nairobi to the constituency. How you manage what comes with a high-stakes political contestation is yet to be seen. But I expect it to be quite considerable and quite a challenge even to the security forces.
Finally, I'll go with a statement we've had there from Maina Kiai reacting to this ruling. He said that this time round, the people who vote will be able to protect their own vote, and this ruling will, in essence, make it harder to steal elections. Do you agree?
Not quite, because what it would mean is that you can guard in your area what has happened, subject, of course, to the other side being able to verify and to ensure the right thing is done. But by and large, and I hope the ruling might also have some benefits of its own, because it might also prevent us, because of having better agents and assuring better supervisions by all the candidates for the presidential vote, it might actually mean you may not have a situation whereby probably 60% of the people have voted, yet you are reporting about 90%. Because at that time you would be knowing that it's now or never at that local station. But does it give anybody an advantage? It gives equal advantage,
to both sides,
to ensure that you are not rigged out, and potentially a challenge to play in the game in your strongholds. So you can't tell in advance what would
be an interesting election.
It will be an interesting election, whichever you look at it.
Thank you so much for coming in and helping us understand what the hours of giving out this ruling really meant. Kibe Mungai is a lawyer. Thank you very much for coming in. And of course, it's a story we continue to follow up on. We'll definitely tell you whether the IEBC will go ahead and appeal this particular decision at the Supreme Court.